Good morning, Pat. Thank you for the introduction and a warm welcome back to the Milwaukee region. And I certainly appreciate all of you who have convened here this morning for what is going to be an exceptionally exciting day. And to that end, I'm going to make sure to keep my comments brief. But I certainly want to thank Joel for the hospitality and hosting us here at Quad Graphics. There isn't a better place to kick off Manufacturing Week here in Milwaukee, which was leading to Manufacturing Day tomorrow across the country, than in a region that was known as the machine shop of the world for the legacy that was created in manufacturing during the industrial heyday of this company. One of the things that I'm excited about as we talk about next generation manufacturing, certainly we're here to talk about the innovation and the competitive necessary evolution to make sure that all of you as manufacturers in the supply chain remain competitive and continue to be productive into the next generation. But next generation manufacturing also, I'm sure, speaks to and encompasses the notion that we have to capture the hearts and minds of our young people. Unfortunately, even in today's survey, we're finding that manufacturing as a career choice still remains in last place when it comes to young people as they talk about the things they want to do in their careers. And it hits close to home for me because my wife and I have a 6-year-old son, Ethan, who, as 6-year-olds go, is quite precocious and involved in any manner of things. And while it's easier to give him sometimes our iPhones and our cell phones for him to engage in the apps, and there isn't a day that goes by that he isn't trying to convince, persuade, or cajole us to buy another app, even if it's free. Just, Dad, just one more app, if I can just have this app. We cannot remain the leader of the world in terms of having the most dynamic economy simply from apps. So as much as it gives us a bit of mind or peace of mind to hand him that iPhone, I am much more encouraged and inspired when I see him playing with those Legos. Because ultimately, we have to make things, and he leaves them, and we step on them in the middle of the night. But instead of getting that frustration, I envision that this is going to lead him one day, sitting in this room as a manufacturer, as an engineer, as someone who is very much involved in what is arguably one of the most important segments of our economy. So that's why I'm excited when I get to come and talk about manufacturing, having lived it in my hometown of Youngstown, Ohio. Again, having a 6-year-old son who, whatever his career choice is, I want at that point in his life for manufacturing not to be an afterthought, not to be something that I will do because I don't have any other options. I want him to take his time and his talent and his energy and hopefully engage in the things that all of you are engaged in here today. And it's really why the Department of Commerce has put such a strong focus on Manufacturing Week because of its importance to the country. Last year's Manufacturing Day saw over 400,000 people participate in more than 2,400 events across the country, open houses, tours, career workshops. And tomorrow on Manufacturing Day, we expect more than 300 events to be held in locations across the country, plants, workshops, machine shops from coast to coast. This collective effort drawing attention to manufacturing as an important part of our past, our present, and certainly a critical part of our future. So being here at Quad Graphics is just enlightening because you all know the printing industry and technologies have been around for 200 plus years. And we have seen a lot of large industries come and go specifically in this field. But the evolution of this corporation, a family-owned corporation that has expanded, has invested over $200 million, has created thousands and thousands of jobs, has figured out how to be innovative, how to be relevant, how to be impactful, I think speaks volumes and is certainly a lesson for communities and corporations across the country. The other thing that I think is a national model is the M7 Grow Here campaign, that talent partnership that really encompasses both the public, the private, the philanthropic, understands bringing in the educational component very early on, and knowing that, as Secretary Pritzker has highlighted in the Department of Commerce, that workforce and development skills have to be a priority in every investment that the federal government makes. For far too long, the federal government's investment in workforce has sort of been an afterthought, where we invest millions and billions of dollars in training programs. As Secretary Perez has said, we took the position of training and praying. Training, and then hoping and praying that somehow this training would lead to productive engagement in the workforce. But making sure that the employers, the manufacturers are helping to articulate the skills, the talents, the knowledge that is necessary for workforce participants in the very beginning of those programs has been something that has been really a hallmark of this administration. So, it really speaks to why I'm excited to be here and participate in today's events. And really the story of Quad Graphics, and so many of you here, exemplifies why manufacturing still matters. I don't have to go and recite the history of how manufacturing really helped build the middle class of this country. Being from Youngstown, Ohio, my grandparents and generations back came to places like Youngstown, Ohio to work in the steel mill. Certainly the foundries and the breweries and the tanneries that were a part of the history of this community speak to the importance of manufacturing then, but also still speak to the importance of manufacturing now. There were not that many years ago that people were willing and ready to write off U.S. manufacturing en masse. The notion that we have to be an idea economy, I don't disagree with that. The notion that technology and innovation and all those things are going to be a critical growing part of this economy, I concur 100%. But the notion that somehow we could get away from making things as a country, that we could cede that territory to lower cost places, whether it be Mexico or places in Europe and Asia, and somehow remain the most dynamic economy on the face of the planet, is certainly a flawed rationale. And it's why the president very early on made the investment, and it started off and was most readily manifest in the investment in automotive manufacturing, but it was really an investment in manufacturing U.S. at large. And it was also an investment in the U.S. manufacturing worker. And even though we are facing global headwinds, there are today 830,000 more manufacturing jobs than there were 6 years ago. And companies are looking to fill, many of you in this room, collectively over 350,000 additional manufacturing jobs. 4 years in a row, CEOs from around the world have named the United States of America as the best place to grow and invest, and we have seen capital investment in a range of manufacturing sectors. But again, speaking to the reality that we face, the last 2 years, as you all can speak to very vividly, manufacturing has faced headwinds. We've seen weaker demand overseas. We've seen a stronger dollar, and sharply lower commodity prices have caused new orders and productions to slow. But we have to be critical, and it's not so much the folks in this room, but it's sometimes the talking pundits who are unable or unwilling to distinguish between the short-term headwinds that we face in manufacturing and the long-term fundamental growing strength that has been the case over the past 6 to 8 years. There are reasons that the words "made in America" being stamped on our products continue to be the envy of the global economy. The people that we have here in our communities, their resilience, their ingenuity, their innovation, our business climate, and our capacity to compete. The president has said it time and time again, giving not even a playing field, a level playing field, but a relatively level playing field. Our companies, our communities, our workers can out-innovate anyone on the face of the planet. The notion of chasing the lowest cost dollar in manufacturing, those days are behind us. We are not going to compete simply on the cost of labor, but when you add the rule of law, the protection of intellectual property, the notion of rising middle class in other parts of the world, the transportation costs, all the other things factored into the cost of production makes the United States of America that much more attractive. And we've seen that over the past several years in the Select USA conventions that have been happening. As a matter of fact, it has increased foreign direct investment in this country over 15% year over year over the last 2 years. And it's exciting that places like the Milwaukee region and so many others, and I'm somewhat biased to the Midwest. I have a national, obviously, obligation, but I can't help but to be inspired and excited when I see the Midwestern part of the country really play a critical role in the renaissance of manufacturing. And it's really why we're excited that this region was redesignated as one of just 24 Investing in Manufacturing Communities Partnerships, or IMCP designated regions across the country. This was an initiative that the president launched to help identify regions across the country that had aligned themselves along manufacturing strengths, that had a significant level of innovation and collaboration, to focus federal investment on those areas, not at the expense of other areas, but we get a better return on our investment as a federal government when we're investing in those regions that have aligned themselves along those strengths. So you are absolutely to be congratulated for your recent redesignation as an IMCP community for the next 2 years. And specifically in Milwaukee, we were talking to Dave Miskey as he drove us in, and it confirmed what we have seen in this area, that manufacturing still makes up over 15% of the economy here. The Milwaukee region ranks second nationally in terms of manufacturing density. And these jobs pay considerably more than jobs across the other sectors of the economy. So, we're really excited about the innovation that is occurring here, the IMCP designation, the regional partnership that is now emerging into energy and power, water technologies, food and beverage manufacturing. Each of these have a critical role to play in strengthening not only a regional economy, but the national economy. And as I begin to close, I also want to cite the fact that the Brookings Metro Monitor has noted that Milwaukee's industries are becoming more productive and generating more value per worker today than they've seen in the past generation. And it's really a testament to all of you here today. So I'll close by telling you that it's really been an honor to be a part of the administration and work for a president that understands the importance of manufacturing, is willing to put the federal government resources behind that. The Secretary of Commerce, Penny Pritzker, certainly understands the importance of making sure that we create an environment where you all can thrive. Jobs aren't created by politicians, and I know we're often running for office guilty of saying that. Jobs aren't created by federal government programs, but what we do when we're at our best. We can have policies and investments that help create a better environment. Jobs are ultimately created when individuals are willing to put capital at risk, when they have an environment where they can take that time and their talent and create a product or a good or a service and make that available to customers. That's ultimately why we've seen the renaissance of this economy that just 7+ years ago was facing the greatest economic decline we had seen outside of the Great Depression. The 75 months of consecutive job growth in the private sector, the 15.1 million jobs that have been added, a significant portion of them in manufacturing, are a direct testament to what your talent, your time, and your passion are bringing to communities from across this country. And now on this note, and Pat O'Brien talked about the importance of exports, and it's why my hometown was able to survive the worst of times, because we had small businesses and entrepreneurs that were able to export their goods and services to other countries across the globe. And I know there's a lot of debate and discussion and legitimate concern about the effects of the globalized economy. Again, coming from my hometown, I have seen some of the detriments and the downsides to the globalized economy. But at the same time, we have survived because those small businesses, those entrepreneurs, have been able to export their goods and services. It's exactly why the president is continuing to make the case that we have to have trade agreements that allow businesses in regions across this country to have fair trading regulations and fair trading guidelines with the 95% of the population that exists outside of our borders. Yes, we are indeed still the largest economy on the face of the planet. But if 95% of the population exists outside the U.S. borders, it means that we would be foregoing opportunities to allow the goods and services and the talent produced here in the Milwaukee region to be exported to other places. So to the extent that the debate will continue to rage on, this administration, this president remains committed, because the fastest growing middle-class segment is going to be in Asia over the next 10 to 20 years. And if we sit on the sidelines, you all know that our major competitors globally are certainly going to be more than happy to set the terms and set the trends, and they certainly won't be to the benefit of the United States or regions like Milwaukee. So thank you very much for your time and your talent. Thank you for all that you're doing to make this region a success, a model for other regions across the country, and that certainly translates into a more dynamic, robust, and stronger national economy. Thank you very much.